Baseball is finally back in full swing this season. Fans across the country are lining up to see their favorite team and get back into the ballpark after some time away. It's a unique experience, and in the summertime, a warm breeze, bright lights, and a cold drink while watching the classic American pastime make for the perfect way to spend a day. Timothy Malcolm is one fan that really looks forward to these memories made each season. Malcolm is a die-hard Phillies fan, longtime baseball writer, and author of the new book, Baseball Road Trips, the complete guide to all the ballparks, with beer bites and sights nearby.
From the earliest moment of my life, I loved baseball. That's sort of indoctrinated into you when you are a kid in Philadelphia. So I went to a lot of baseball games at Veterans Stadium, watched every game on television. My dad would take me to games. It didn't matter how good or bad the Phillies were as a kid. Usually they were bad, but I loved going to the ballpark and keeping score and just being surrounded by the game, being surrounded by other fans. And as I got older, it became more emotional for me as a Phillies fan. They got really good when I was in my early 20s. And so I lived and died on every pitch. And at the same time, I was writing for a blog about the Phillies. And so every single day I was watching every moment of every game and writing about it, really intense into it. And they won the World Series in 2008, which was amazing. And it was the best season of my life because I followed every pitch and was there the whole way and went to a couple games that were really meaningful. And that was amazing. And then after that ended, the Phillies had a couple more years where they were pretty good, but my fandom slowly started to become more universal.
Malcolm is no stranger to the ballpark. He's traveled to many different stadiums over the years, from the well-known Fenway Park in Boston to Oracle Park, right by the water in San Francisco. In 2011, in the span of a 2-week cross-country road trip, he saw 10 major league games, all in different stadiums. Among the many, he has some clear favorites, but also enjoys some of the interesting quirks and details that each landmark offers.
Kansas City at Kauffman Stadium, they have this water spectacular, which is a combination of kind of waterfall, but also fountains that blast off when the Royals maybe hit a home run or win a game. So that's really fun. I also love the iconic architectural quirks of the game. Fenway Park has the Green Monster, right, which everybody knows. But there's also Pesky's pole in right field, which is this really sharp jut-in foul pole that it's maybe about 299 feet from home plate. People vary on how far it is from home plate. It's about 299 feet. And so if you can easily hit a home run, a left-handed hitter, by hitting that pole, which is really cool. And then, in Dodger Stadium, they have that really cool sort of triangular ceiling, which is unusual for any other park. And Yankee Stadium has the Frise, which is this beautiful group of archways around the roof of that stadium. So always be on the lookout for those things.
The unique differences and traditions of each ballpark adds to the experience of watching a game in person. But there are some changes this season due to the pandemic. Malcolm notes that many teams are limiting attendance, with some ballparks still hovering at around 50 or 60% capacity, while other stadiums are fully open.
It just really depends on where you're living. Texas, which is actually where I am, is one of the more open states with COVID-19 right now. So both Globe Life Field and Minute Maid Park in Houston have let in more people than other parks. Truist Park in Atlanta also has let in a lot of fans. I believe it's 75% there. So it really depends. There are other parks like the New York parks, and I think some of the more parks on the East Coast and the West Coast, they're a little bit down still, somewhere between 25% and maybe 40%. And teams are, as things continue to progress and as vaccinations go up, they're constantly watching to see if they can bring up those numbers a little bit more to let in more fans. Now, when you're at the park, it really depends again, but I think for the most part, teams are telling everybody to wear a mask when you come in at least. They also do ask people to be socially distant if possible. Of course, sometimes that's hard in a ballpark atmosphere, and the concourses especially. But if you're in line for food or drink, just try to keep yourself some space between the person in front of you and yourself.
In addition to capacity limits and mask requirements, some teams have also created special sections where fully vaccinated fans can sit with no seat spacing requirements. If you're planning to sit in one of these sections, make sure you bring your vaccination card with you to the game. Malcolm says that all of these changes this year can lead to higher ticket prices in some ballparks, but there are ways to save some cash.
One thing that has always been great for me is looking at the secondary ticket market, which means the websites that resell tickets. So, the team will have tickets that they've sold and maybe whoever bought them doesn't want them, so they bring them back to the team. In that case, they go on StubHub. StubHub is now the official secondary marketplace for Major League Baseball. And what that does is it certifies StubHub as sort of the place and it's official. And you can be pretty sure when you buy a ticket off of StubHub that you're getting the ticket, that you're not going to be scammed. But the thing that also goes against that is because it's now an MLB partner, they might actually have higher ticket prices than you'd want out of a secondary ticket reseller. So always just kind of have a backup plan if you're going that route. And I would say there are some other kind of markets, resellers that are relatively reliable, and they kind of come in all kinds of names. Ticket IQ is one of them. I know in Boston they have Ace Tickets, which is a very specific one for that market. Sometimes if it's specific for the market, that's actually a really good way to get tickets because they're tried and true in that area.
If you're on a third-party site like StubHub, Malcolm says try looking for tickets right before the first pitch starts. These merchants are always looking to unload last-minute tickets, and there may be some steep discounts on good seats. Malcolm also recommends downloading the MLB app for easy entry into the ballpark and access to other perks.
Sometimes you can go into the ballpark and, 45 minutes before first pitch, a ticket on the app, they might say, hey, you're available for an upgrade, and they will free upgrade your ticket to a better seat in the house. So that's one of the benefits of the Ballpark app.
And once you do finally make it into a game, what are the first things you should do? What should you order? Well, there's no set directive, but Malcolm has one tradition he sticks to every time he enters a ballpark.
I love just coming in and going to home plate and taking a picture of the outfield backdrop when I go to a place. I just want to see that outfield backdrop because that's really where the ballpark takes its own character. So I love doing that myself personally. But, other people, obviously, they want to take a glove to a game and maybe catch some foul balls. That's always an option. No team restricts that. So you can go out and catch some foul balls or batting practice, home runs. But I love taking that picture. I love getting a scorebook and hopefully keeping score if I can. And when you're talking about food and drink at the ballpark, I'm a purist who loves to have a hot dog and a beer, and that's really enough for me.
While a hot dog and a cold beverage is the classic baseball fare, there are some stadiums that highlight their regional food and drink favorites. For instance, the Milwaukee Brewers in Wisconsin serve up fried cheese curds and several other cheese-centric menu items. Malcolm says that each ballpark offers something different, and if you're a fan of baseball, it's worthwhile to travel to a stadium you've never been to before and soak it all in.
I always tell people to go to Fenway Park. It's historic. It's been around for over 100 years. It's still really great to look at. It's quirky. It's a cool vibe around the ballpark. And when you're in there, it's so tight that you feel like you're part of something really fun. And the action's really great, especially when we get really past COVID and we all feel a lot safer. It's a really great atmosphere to be in with 40,000 other people. So Fenway's one. I would also recommend Oracle Park in San Francisco, which is a little bit high priced, but it's totally worth the price and it's totally worth the journey. Obviously, you're going for the view of McCovey Cove and right field, that gorgeous, gorgeous view. But it is such an immersive place with a great food and drink scene. I was able to score one of the best beers in the world at that ballpark, and I didn't even expect it to be there, but someone tipped me off on it and I found it. They also have great food options. Everything from the Gilroy garlic fries, which are an iconic treat there, to really great vegetarian, vegan options, to great seafood. It's really got everything for a baseball fan who's looking to eat.
Malcolm's third and final recommendation is heading to Wrigley Field in Chicago. It's the second oldest stadium in the Major League after Fenway Park and is known for its ivy-covered brick walls.
Sitting out in the bleachers with a bunch of Cubs fans who are both really excitable and, really want to talk about how great the Cubs can be, but also really like, the Cubs, another disappointing season, what the heck? That's a really great fan base to get to know. And of course, the area around Wrigley is amazing, Wrigleyville, with all the bars and the restaurants there. It's a really great hangout. And of course, you got the ivy and the brick wall and the scoreboard and the flags and the W flag and just all the little quirks about that ballpark. It's really special.
Hopefully this season, whether it's your first ball game or your 100th, you can make it out and enjoy all that the ballpark has to offer. To find out more about this topic and our guest, Timothy Malcolm, head to viewpointsradio.org. You can find his book, Baseball Road Trips, online and in bookstores near you. This segment was written and produced by Amira Zaveri. I'm Gary Price.
Pandemic school closures have taken a large toll on both children and their parents, socially, emotionally, and academically. But with prevention steps, including regular PCR-based COVID-19 testing, outbreaks in schools may be largely prevented. In fact, the Biden administration has identified testing in schools as a critical proactive step in recovery from the pandemic. Here's Shiraz Ladiwala, Senior Vice President of Business Transformation Projects, Thermo Fisher Scientific.
Testing for schools can be done accurately, efficiently, and affordably by using pooled PCR testing programs where multiple samples are tested at once. Batch results are reported as positive or negative and returned in 12 to 48 hours, helping to quickly indicate a potential outbreak.
Highly accurate COVID-19 testing helps school administrators detect outbreaks quickly, so informed decisions about in-person learning can be made. Find out more at thermofisher.com/COVID testing for schools.
COVID-19 vaccines are rolling out, and many Americans are looking forward to getting back to normal. However, chronic stress of the past year can impact memory, mood, and anxiety. So during June, Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, the Alzheimer's Association reminds you to make brain health a priority. Beth Kallmeyer, Vice President of Care and Support for the Alzheimer's Association, has tips to restore mental well-being.
First, think about recommitting to brain-healthy basics, like regular exercise, a heart-healthy diet, and getting plenty of sleep. Try to unplug from technology every night. Do what you can to manage your own stress, especially if you're a caregiver for a person living with Alzheimer's or dementia. And return to normal at your own pace by taking small steps and setting boundaries.
Kallmeyer says it also helps the brain to help others by volunteering in your community. For example, by supporting the Alzheimer's Association's The Longest Day event, June 20th. Find out more about Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month at alz.org.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Viewpoints is a production of MediaTrax Communications. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about upcoming shows. And find a library of past programs on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and more information about our guests at viewpointsradio.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Viewpoints.
Coming up on Viewpoints.
We don't need more and more processed foods, much of which is getting dumped in the global south.
The pervasiveness of palm oil. Then,
I typically run maybe 60 to 80 miles a week, sometimes more than that. And I also do a lot of cross-training.
The life of an ultra-marathon runner. I'm Marty Peterson.
and I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.